Hello, thanks for being here. I want to tell you a story tonight. Not a lesson, not a speech, just a story. The kind people tell when they're not trying to sound smart, just honest. It's about America. And before anything else, let me say this. America is not a clean story. It never was. Long before it was called America, this land already had people. They lived here for thousands of years. They didn't draw straight borders. They didn't measure land and sell it. They followed seasons, rivers, animals. To them, land wasn't something you owned. It was something you lived with. That difference alone would later cause so much damage. When Europeans arrived, they didn't come to an empty place. They came with ships, guns, beliefs, and fear. Some came to escape religious pressure. Some came for land. Some came because they had nothing left in Europe. And here's the uncomfortable truth. America was born from hope and harm at the same time. That contradiction never really went away. Many early settlers were deeply religious, especially the Puritans. They didn't come to be powerful. They came because they couldn't worship freely back home. When they stepped onto this land, it was cold, wild, unforgiving. No army, no safety net, no promise they would survive the winter. So they held on to faith. Not faith as decoration. Not faith as tradition. Faith as survival. They prayed when crops failed. They prayed when children got sick. They prayed because sometimes that was the only thing left. God wasn't above them. God was something they whispered to in the dark. In 1776, the colonies made a dangerous decision. They stood up to the most powerful empire in the world. Not because they were confident, but because living without dignity felt worse than the risk of losing everything. When they wrote about rights, life, liberty, they didn't know if they would win. Signing that document was basically saying, if this fails, we hang. That part often gets skipped. But here's something important. They believed rights didn't come from kings. They came from something higher. Because if rights come from governments, governments can take them away. That idea scared kings then. It still scares power today. And yet, America talked about freedom while allowing slavery. There's no way to make that sound better. Millions of people were enslaved. Families were broken. Human beings were treated like tools. That lie poisoned the country from inside. Eventually, it exploded into the Civil War. Brother against brother, city against city. The war ended slavery on paper. In real life, pain just changed its shape. Chains disappeared. Fear stayed. America learned something the hard way. Writing the right words is easier than living them. That lesson still isn't finished. That lesson still isn't finished. This is where the sentence, "In God we trust," really belongs. Not as a slogan, not as a threat, but as a confession. That sentence showed up strongly during war and crisis. Not when America was strongest, but when it was afraid. I don't read it as confidence. I read it as a pause, like someone taking a breath before jumping. It doesn't say, God is on our side. It feels more like saying, we're going to try anyway, and we hope this isn't meaningless. Putting that sentence on money, on the thing that represents power, is strange. And honestly, very human. After the Civil War, America didn't stop. It kept moving. People arrived carrying names no one could pronounce. They worked jobs no one wanted. They learned English by listening, not studying. Some succeeded, many didn't. America remembers the success stories. It forgets the rest. But one belief quietly grew. If you work hard, your life might change. Not guaranteed, but possible. That maybe became the engine. Work in America became more than survival. It became identity. Part of that came from faith. The idea that effort matters. That suffering isn't random. That you are responsible. Not just to society, but to something bigger. This created amazing things. It also created burnout. America doesn't rest well, but it builds fast. There isn't one America. New York feels like it's always in a hurry. Los Angeles feels like a dream that hasn't decided what it is yet. Chicago feels solid, honest. New Orleans feels like history learned how to sing. And then there's the land itself. Standing at the Grand Canyon makes you feel small, in a good way. Places like Yosemite or Yellowstone remind you that humans are not in charge of everything. That space shaped the American mind. Think big, sometimes too big. If you want to understand America, don't listen to speeches. Eat. And the music? Jazz, blues, rock, hip-hop. These sounds didn't come from comfort. They came from struggle. America sings its pain. It films its dreams. Hollywood exaggerates, yes. But it also shows how Americans see themselves. as underdogs, even when they're powerful. So why does the world dream of America? Not because it's kind, not because it's fair. People dream of America because it doesn't decide who you are in advance. You can fail here, publicly, loudly. You can try again. That freedom is exhausting, and many people break under it. But for some, it's still better than being told who they'll never be. America is not gentle. It's not finished. It argues with itself, constantly. But under all the noise, there's still a quiet sentence printed on its money. In God we trust. Not as certainty, but as courage. And maybe that belief disappoints more people than it saves. But history shows something uncomfortable. Without that belief, without the willingness to step forward without guarantees, America wouldn't exist at all. If you ever come here, don't just visit landmarks. Go to a library, sit in a park, talk to strangers. You might not love America, but you will understand why so many people, from so many places, once believed, and still believe, that a different life might be possible here. And sometimes that belief is enough. Thanks for listening.